Hello, I'm Daye, and in this presentation, I'd like to introduce our paper, Understanding Documentation Used Through Log Analysis, an exploratory case study of 4 cloud services. Learning to use new software services is challenging, as modern software services offer many different features involving multiple complex concepts. Users need to access to vast amount of information. However, this information is often scattered across multiple places, forcing users to navigate through multiple pages. For example, to find specific implementation details, they'll need to go to reference documentation. For cost estimation, they'll need to go to pricing pages. And for conceptual understanding, they'll need to go to product overview. Each of these categories will contain multiple pages and multiple paragraphs, which makes it even harder to find information. And it becomes even more challenging if a user is new to the service, as they may lack the necessary experience and background knowledge such as keywords to effectively search for or forage information. Thus, even when the documentation provides the information that can satisfy users' needs, for example, of experienced SQL engineers, some might not recognize it and still missing the information they need. Then we thought, what if we could recommend documentation like how Spotify recommends songs or YouTube recommends videos that are tailored to the user's interests? This is an idea that has not yet been explored for software documentation, although it sounds very obvious to do. Since software documentation web pages are just another type of systems providing content, like YouTube or Spotify, we might be able to also recommend content tailored to the user's information needs. This can be done by, for example, providing low-level implementation details to already experienced users, and recommending more introductory materials like explaining key jargons to users who are new to the domain. But to do so, we need to have some ways of inferring the user's information needs or preferences. Maybe, like many existing recommendation systems, we can use signals from interaction logs, such as which pages users click, how long they watch the content, and many more, to infer preferences. In this work, as a first step toward the larger vision of providing more personalized documentation, we explored whether the interaction logs from documentation also capture different users' needs or intent, like in YouTube or Spotify. To give you the answer up front, we confirm that documentation usage included in page view logs can indeed be used in estimating users' needs and intent. And in this work, to confirm this, we analyzed the page view logs of Google Cloud documentation. We examined logs from 4 different Google Cloud products involving more than 100,000 users in May 2020, and we employed various privacy protection techniques since we were using user data, including differential privacy and month-level data aggregation. And to represent each user's documentation usage, we considered the dwell time on different types of documentation pages. Then we tested whether the documentation usage in page view logs correlated with user characteristics. We formed hypotheses by reviewing literature that studied factors influencing or influenced by programmers' information seeking, such as high experience levels are positively associated with accessing documentation covering implementation details. Next, we approximated the user characteristics using the page view logs of previous months and the API usage data. For example, we estimated users' experience levels based on their tenure with the Google Cloud Platform and their previous service usage, and we estimated the user's documentation type predisposition with their documentation usage in previous 3 months. We then conducted multiple regression analysis to test the extent to which the various user-level characteristics we hypothesized could explain people's log documentation visits to different types of documentation pages. And we found multiple significant correlations between the user-level characteristics and the documentation usage. For instance, we discovered that the odds of accessing reference documentation and other pages containing low-level development details are 1.34 times higher among users with prior experience with the products compared to those without. Additionally, we confirmed correlations between past and future access to certain types of documentation. For example, the odds of accessing administrative documentation pages, such as pricing or legal pages, are 3.31 times higher among users who had also accessed such pages in the past 3 months compared to those who had not. From the regression analysis, we found that all of our hypotheses were supported, except for one that was still partially supported. We found numerous correlations between the documentation usage shown in page view logs and user characteristics, as well as future product adoption. And this indicates that it is feasible to use documentation usage in estimating users' needs and intent. And we believe that this is a very promising first step towards providing personalized documentation, because even with the very coarse-grained month-level aggregated logs that we use, which was also carefully prepared with many privacy protection techniques, still reveals some signals about users' needs and intent. And we envision that similar studies could be conducted with other user characteristics such as gender, roles, programming expertise, and many more, which will provide greater insights on different users' documentation usage. And as part of this case study, in addition to testing hypotheses on user characteristics, we actually identified many discernible patterns of documentation usage. These include task-oriented users who only focus on specific tasks in how-to guides, documentation explorers who browse through high-level introductory pages only for short times, and financial users who spend time exclusively on pricing pages. And analyzing different documentation usage patterns enabled us to discover many unexpected usage of documentation, providing implications for design improvements. And we believe that this documentation log analysis provides a great addition on how we conduct documentation design reviews that were mostly conducted at a smaller scale. This large-scale log analysis complements existing methods because it can be cost-efficient, as it doesn't require participant recruitment or monetarily compensation for the study. It can analyze the entire population of documentation users instead of having the target participants for the smaller scale studies, and capturing a perspective less prone to response biases, as we can analyze the user's actual log instead of asking them to report or observe them using it. Thus, log analysis-based documentation review can be extremely valuable as a first pass of documentation review to guide the design of more complex approaches such as human studies that might give even richer insights. And further details on how we conducted this large-scale log analysis, including clustering analysis for exploration of data, investigation of those clusters, and the regression analysis, are available in our paper. So to recap, in this work, we demonstrated that various characteristics of documentation users correlate with their usage patterns in documentation page view logs. And this means that even without knowing anything else about the users, their interaction histories and dwell time in the page view logs that can be automatically collected can provide actionable information at scale for providers. And this insight can help documentation providers decide which documentation pages to redesign and even potentially personalize documentation pages in the future to better meet their users' needs. And finally, this exploratory multi-phase mixed method study design we employed for this analysis can serve as a model for design audits of any type of web-based documentation, generating actionable insights by complementing existing smaller scale, more qualitative approaches. And thank you for watching this video. And for more details about the study design, dataset, and implications, please refer to our paper. Thank you.